Welcome, everybody, to Wall Street Reporter's next super stock company spotlight. Today, we're introducing to you a brand new company, DeepMarkit MKTDF over the counter, MKT on the TSX. This is a company which is operating sort of, we're gonna get the description directly from Ranjit, the CEO, but I would say this is almost like at the intersection of the trillion-dollar carbon credit market and blockchain and NFTs. It's a really interesting opportunity. So again, for anybody that's brand new to our program, our goal is to bring you those stocks which have that 10x to 100x upside potential. So these are companies that are going after massive multi-billion-dollar market opportunities. They're at a key inflection point right now in their growth cycle, and there are multiple catalysts in place right now which can unleash that massive increase in shareholder value. And we've had 8 stocks in the past 18 months or so that have increased anywhere from 1,100% to 5,000%, 50x. And they've all had these things in common. So we're going to find out if DeepMarkit, MKTDF, is going to be the next company to join this pantheon of 10 baggers. So with that said, Ranjit, welcome to the program.
It's a pleasure to be here. I like that word, pantheon. I'll have to remember that.
It's very grand, very grandiose. But this is, well, listen, any stock that goes up 10x, it's an important thing, right? So
most definitely,
we have to elevate it to an important level, to the pantheon of 10 baggers.
I like it.
Or 100 baggers. So first thing I want to ask you just closed. So what's interesting is that DeepMarkit is actually fits into this, this criteria. You just closed this acquisition of First Carbon, which is, again, this you'll explain to us exactly what this is, but essentially this is an inflection point and a major catalyst. So right now the company, it's started trading just recently, so we're really kind of at the ground floor here. So explain to us exactly, first of all, what is a carbon credit before we get, because a lot of people don't know what this is. I know it's essentially a market that's in the hundreds of billions, probably approaching a trillion.
Yes. Currently there's a global transition to clean energy. Most companies around the world are trying to get to net zero carbon emissions by 2050. This is why the carbon credit market was created. Last year, I believe the total amount of carbon credits exceeded $1 billion by November, and it's forecasted to trade over the next 10 years into the multi-trillion-dollar valuation. So what we're doing within this carbon credit sector, a company has a carbon credit. What is a carbon credit? A carbon credit essentially is a permit or a certificate that represents the right to emit 1/10 of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Essentially, this is an offset for producers of carbon dioxide. So your manufacturers, your mines, your plantations, Coca-Cola, everybody's trying to get net zero with carbon. They get their carbon credits verified by one of the top 3 firms in the world. And by the way, we have 2 of them, Gold Standard and Vera. They are working with us to assure that all the credits are verified. They come to our platform, which we own via First Carbon. That platform is called Mint Carbon, and they mint those credits into NFTs. Those NFTs are then tradable on exchanges and marketplaces like OpenSea. Essentially, we want to be the eBay of carbon credits.
Okay, the eBay of carbon credits. Of course, eBay, established a $1 billion market. So eBay of carbon credits, it's pretty interesting. So essentially, carbon credits, right? It's traded within. There is an institutional market right now, but what you're doing is through these NFTs, essentially, you're giving the retail investors or even institutions, obviously, access to this market and it can get in, I guess, with small increments, right? It could be like, I don't know, $1, $10, I'm assuming. $100?
Definitely. We're creating a marketplace. Our platform can showcase a project, the related artwork, the photography. It allows the carbon credit holders to interact with the stakeholders. stakeholders can track their credits life cycle, and the owners of the NFT or the credits receive a royal time every time it's traded.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. So basically, the I guess the idea, just if we go back to the idea of the carbon credits, it was really set up as a way to, again, to reduce carbon emissions, so that anybody who is producing carbon, or factory, essentially they have to pay a fee. They're basically paying. So in other words, because they're being taxed essentially for producing carbon, so that they're incentivized, obviously, to produce less carbon. And the way they pay this tax is they have to buy these credits essentially from people who are reducing carbon. So like a solar generation or whatever it is, those guys reduce carbon. So that's kind of the way the market. I guess it's a free market system that is really the governments are essentially created to reduce the whole carbon situation.
Yeah, most definitely. Carbon credits, they're not a new asset class. They've been around for about 20 years. But what is new is this is the first time we've ever seen mass adoption. The government has done this by putting pressure on these large public and private corporations around the world to follow these carbon neutral mandates. And that's where the whole carbon credit fits in.
Okay. Now, before we actually even get into your business model and how you're making money and everything else, there are a couple of companies in this space right now, just a handful, so which are trading at very large valuations, which I think lends validity to kind of the market opportunity. You want to mention some of those?
Well, carbon streaming, they have a couple $100 million valuation. Abex, there's 3 or 4 of them, and you can view them on our presentation from our website. But what's interesting with those companies is they're all on the streaming side. They're all in the side of, they're going out there trying to find these projects and buy the credits. What are they going to do once they bought these credits? They're going to want to trade these credits. So it's fantastic that these guys are out there doing that, because we're the logical partner for most of these groups who are aggregating credits. Most of our potential clients are aggregators of credits, asset management firms, mining conglomerates. They've been amassing credits for years and years, perhaps decades. And now we're going to give them the chance to get with the trend and turn it into an NFT and list on the open marketplace.
Okay, so let's get into your model. How do you make money with this? How does this whole thing work?
On this whole new NFT world, it's new to me, and it sure is fascinating. What's interesting with our platform is we have a minting fee. So a company comes to us, and I'm using this number 25 million credits because that's what we believe is our first phase of onboarding. We believe in the next very short period of time, 25 million credits will come onto our platform. We will mint those credits into NFTs, and they will go trade in the open marketplace.
Okay.
So 25 million credits, we get paid a 10% minting fee. That's 2.5 million credits we would get paid. Current price is around $10 in the voluntary market where we operate, the voluntary carbon credit market. And that's forecast to go much higher. That's actually $25 million in revenue via carbon credits just on that minting fee. And I think conservatively, a company like ours in this sector, we are breaking ground, but 10 times revenue, let's call that. That's $250 million valuation. And this does not take into account the recurring revenue and perpetuity. That's another word I come to like a lot. So every time that credit trades, our company and the carbon credit creator share a royalty. So we get paid 2 ways. We mint it, we take our 10%, we get paid in credits, and we get that recurring revenue and perpetuity every time it trades.
How much do you get? How much do you get recurring?
That's negotiable. It's probably about 1 or 2% shared.
That's still a lot. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so because this is a volume business. Okay, so basically, you're gonna have these 25 million carbon credits on your system coming up shortly. How many shares are? What's the company right now? How many shares are outstanding?
There are 40 million shares outstanding.
Okay, so the valuation.
We're about $30 million US valuation.
Yeah. So the valuation is $30 million right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you're on a path to essentially get to 250 million valuation, there's a real path out there, which is coming up. And we're going to get into more of that, but essentially, they're already built into what you have right now is a path for a 10x essentially for investors, which this is the thing that we find compelling here at Wall Street Reporter, is that there is you have this built-in path. It's not something that is out there, but there's a real direct path to get there. So these 25 million credits. When exactly do you expect to get these onto the platform?
Well, we've been public for 2 weeks, but we started our sales cycle approximately 3 months ago. We have a sales team in Canada, in South America, and in Asia. We see the first $25 million credits coming on board in the next quarter. We see explaining to the investing market through news releases who they are, what they are, and when they'll come on board starting in the next 1 or 2 weeks. So we are in the sales cycle where they're going to start onboarding that first batch of credits. And currently we're working on that second batch of credits earlier in the sales cycle. So it's not a long wait to see if we're going to start minting, that's for sure.
Okay. Okay. So basically, we have so essentially in the next 3 to 5 months, let's call it, we're going to see this event happen. So there's a valuation, there's a milestone evaluation event approaching. Obviously, as you have more developments, you have more news flow, the stock can get repriced, hopefully higher, as you're able to show some growth here. But okay, so this is very exciting. So these credits are going to trade in the form of NFTs.
Correct.
Okay, and it's going to trade as NFTs on everywhere, like OpenSea.
Everywhere on the OpenSea platform is the largest platform. When you go to our platform and you mint a credit, you can list them on the OpenSea platform within 2 minutes. They're all linked in. Our tech is world class. Our tech team is world class. They've built NFT trading platforms before with enormous success, and now we're taking all that into the carbon space.
Okay, so basically, so the person coming to you who's minting the credits, essentially they have credit. So this is like a solar farm or windmill farm, right?
Yeah, they have credits. Their credits have been verified by one of the top 3, Gold Standard, as I mentioned, or Avera. We see that they've been verified, and then we mint them.
Okay, so they're basically selling them through your platform, essentially.
Correct. Yes.
So essentially, so I just want to help retail people understand, because they're going to see this in the next couple of weeks. They're actually going to be able to trade this themselves. But essentially, okay, so a guy has and this is just one example. This is kind of something that just pops in my head. Okay, so somebody has a solar farm, or it could be even a very small solar producer. They create this NFT, which obviously has a value because there's a carbon credit underlying it, so it's a real asset.
Yeah.
And but they give it maybe to make it more marketable. You give it like some sort of artwork, whatever it is.
Art and a story.
Whatever it is, right? And people who are into, for example, I think we talked about this before. So, so they're going to be buying these credits for, obviously these things have a trading market. Carbon credits they're increasing in value, right?
Correct. Yeah, they're increasing in value every month, and it's forecast to increase over the next 10 years.
Okay, it's year on year. I don't want to say it's like Bitcoin, but it kind of is like Bitcoin. So in other words, what you're minting, essentially, you're putting out an asset class that has underlying fundamentals, which are causing it to increase in value. Because essentially, the governments worldwide, they want to increase the price of these credits so that producers of carbon, essentially have to pay a higher tax, which incentivizes them to produce less emissions. That's the idea, right? So it's
correct. Yes,
it's an incredible system. So, okay, so you're creating this asset which has a underlying value, and for example, somebody might want to buy it because obviously the asset is increasing, but at the same time, there's a lot of people, especially like when you're talking about millennials, more into this, but they're more like socially conscious, and I've noticed, and for example, so I know there is like this kind of movement where people are voluntarily buying offsets. Like I noticed, like last time I flew I took a flight last couple of times. I noticed every flight has like next to the the price, everything else, next to the type of plane, it gives you a there's a little thing which says how many tons of carbon or something this flight emits. So in theory, people can choose to go on a flight that emits less carbon, or they could voluntarily, buy X amount of credits from you to offset. I know, like, what is it like? What is it? John Kerry or Al Gore? These guys, very earth friendly, but they fly on private jets. So I'm sure they're buying these credits to offset, the pollution that they're producing. I'm assuming, right?
Correct. So you have that as an example. You have the dinner party conversation where I'm going net zero carbon, we're buying them. Then you have these large oil companies who don't have carbon credits, but they wish to offset. And we're talking to a couple of them right now. They want to come into our marketplace and buy other people's carbon credits to get to that net zero carbon. So there's all sorts of buyers for various different reasons of the carbon credits.
Okay, so it's going to be very exciting. So when are we actually going to see the first carbon credits issued and starting to trade?
Yeah, our platform goes officially live on April 8th.
April
Between
8th.
now and April 8th, 2022, and between now and then, we'll put out a couple of press releases outlining the companies who are first going to be onboarding and minting their credits. So it's in the very next short period of time.
Okay, so this is for investors, this is very compelling. So right now today's was it March 9th, right? So we're less than a month away, right? About 30 days away from you going live with actually the trading is going to start. In the meantime, you're going to have you say you're going to have a couple of announcements that you're expecting about issuers of credits onto your system.
Correct. Yes, we're not going to be going live ice cold on the platform. We're going live with minting happening, and we'll outline that plan to the investor community over the next couple of weeks.
Okay, so when you say going live with minting happening, which to me that means there's actually going to be revenues. You're going to be producing revenues, essentially. I mean, you could
Correct.
be producing that, but essentially April 8th, you're going to have revenues as this thing goes live. It's going to be,
April onward will be revenue.
Okay, excellent. So this is Mint Carbon, right? This is the platform.
Yeah. So the public company is DeepMarkit. Our 100% owned asset is First Carbon Corp, and they own the platform called Mint Carbon. So Mint Carbon is the actual platform which everybody will go to and mint their carbons. Quite the clever name, Mint Carbon. But
this is crazy because I actually it finally just hit me because I thought of Mint as like because you had this logo which had the mint, and I thought, okay, now I get. I was a little slow. I'm sorry, Renji, but okay, Mint Carbon, I get it. Okay.
No, we're quite excited. And again, we have a nice sales team. We're well into the sales cycle, and our shareholders aren't going to have to wait too long to see things start to grow within our carbon credit community.
Okay, and so basically, and also I think this is running on, what is it, the Polygon network, right?
Yeah, the Polygon network, yes, correct.
Which is like the low carbon emission. Okay, so which is important because part of the problem with crypto like Bitcoin is a massive producer of carbon. It's a very unfriendly. So this is actually very carbon friendly. Pretty interesting. Okay, now why would somebody want to use your system? Why would they want to? Why would a carbon credit developer, let's say, use Mint Carbon versus, I don't know, somebody else? Are there, what advantages?
That's a very good question. And I'm going to open with the term first mover. There's nobody else doing it like we're doing it, where they're accepting other people. There's people minting their own tokens and doing it for themselves, but there's no marketplace allowing groups to come in, mint their token, and then list them immediately on any decentralized exchange in the world, such as OpenSea, which we've mentioned.
Okay, so essentially you're I don't want to say you're an exchange, but basically you're clearing. I'm trying to think of the right, but essentially there are people right now who are minting their own credits, but it's a very limited thing.
Correct.
But you basically you're open source, if you will, open
marketplace is a good word for
marketplace, right? Okay,
where people are going to come and mint their credits and list them via us, and people are going to come to our marketplace, see our directory of all the credits we've minted, and then, as we mentioned before, buy some credits to get to net zero for the dinner party, for their business, for their private jet flights, whatever helps them sleep at night.
Yeah, there is. Look, there is a big movement of people who are environmentally conscious. You have this kind of ESG thing happening, which is in the institutional space. So there's a lot of there's a lot of catalysts for the stock. I think once you start generating revenues with this, as you start scaling, I think there's some real opportunities. So Ranjit, the question I have is like, how big can you scale this event? Like ultimately, like how big do you see this becoming? Let's call it in let's 3 years from now. Like how big can this be?
Well, the platform's built to handle scale. It's built to handle 100 million credits, 200 million credits. So, Credit Suisse is expecting the voluntary market to grow by 15 times by 2030. Given our business model and the interest being shown currently by carbon credit project developers in our platform, we're pretty confident we're going to deliver fast.
Okay. So essentially the first kind of milestone, I would say
We're using 25 million credits because that's what we see, and that's what we're going to explain to the investor audience in the next short period of time. And that's in the end of our sales cycle, those credits.
Okay. And that could happen basically in the next 6 months, roughly.
Over the next quarter.
The next quarter, so 3 months. I'm going to use 6 months just to give a little extra,
100%.
We like to be a little bit conservative here, right? Everything takes usually a little bit longer. Okay, so these 25 million credits that you're going to be listing, they have a value we talked about of right now it's like $10 per credit, right? So 250 million. You're getting, your fee is 10%, so 25 million goes to you. You're going to get 25 million of that. And this is like kind of the first part. You were expecting to get to, if you're saying 100 million credits, let me do the math. That's $1 billion. That's $100 million revenue for First Carbon, Mint Carbon, right?
Correct.
Okay, 100 million, potentially 10x valuation. I know, look, the market, I know the NASDAQ has been beaten up lately, but valuations will come back, especially for novel type of extreme like innovation like this. The market will pay a premium. So potentially $1 billion valuation. You have 30 million shares out. So I mean, in theory, this could be a $30 stock if you have still 30. Same. I'm sure you'll have more shares out then, but there is a catalyst to get $10.
We're quite well capitalized right now. We have $2.5 million in the treasury and $8 million in warrants between 75 cents and $1.25. There's no cheap warrants or options out in the company, so there's nothing holding it back from that point of view. So yes, I believe we set the table nicely with a good capital market structure, and by having our sales cycle very far down the track before we went public, which I thought was very important, that we don't come out and say we're going to be onboarding credits next year or 6 months from now. Investors get bored quickly. I'm an investor. I get bored quickly. So I think we're set up quite nicely.
Okay, so to clarify, essentially your sales efforts, in other words, like getting more developers onto the system, have started months back already. So you're already inside the sales cycle. You're kind of towards the end of it. You're going to have projects coming on, and there's going to be a whole bunch of them coming out soon.
Yeah, we have sales teams in 3 parts of the world. We have a large shareholder in our company who owns 9.9%. It's a Malaysian asset management firm. They have a number of projects under management with credits they want to onboard. That could be something we hear about soon in the marketplace. So, we're quite a ways down the sales cycle.
Okay. I think in Malaysia, what's the thing that they have? Was it the palm oil or rubber?
Yeah, palm oil, yeah.
Rubber, I think.
Palm oils, cattle, ranches, plantations, oil and gas, mines.
Okay, no, but the stuff that produces the credits is what? Is it what's the I guess it's the green
palm plantations.
Okay, that produces the credits. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so bottom line is the company is at this inflection point. There's catalysts in place, which is, I would say the catalyst is going to be anytime you bring on a new customer, a producer of carbon onto the platform, produce of credits onto the platform, there's going to be people are going to get, that's going to, add value to the story. So, okay, Ranjit, with that said, let's wrap up here. What's in the next, let's call it 60 days, which is, going into May. So between now and May, what kind of news flow can we expect? You mentioned the market starting early April 8th, 9th, right?
April
What
8th.
else?
I think we can see 3 projects being onboarded, a strategic investor, and the launch of the platform.
Okay, so projects being onboarded onto the platform, and those obviously are people will be able to kind of model those in terms of to see what kind of revenues those can generate.
Correct.
Okay, so that's going to be important. Okay, okay, Ranjit. On that note, let's final question. I always like to ask, in your opinion, top 3 reasons why investors should consider DeepMarkit today.
$1 trillion sector, first mover advantage, excellent sales team far down the cycle.
Far down the cycle. That's actually very critical, right? So this is not something where people are going to have to wait, a year. It's happening now.
Correct.
Okay, excellent. Ranjit, on that note, I want to thank you, and we look forward to sharing updates on these new projects that are going to be, going onto the system in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you very much, Jack.